Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be on Moon Lane TV. I'm Maisie Chan, also writing as M Chan, and I'm the author of Danny Chung Does Not Do Maths, my debut novel, which comes out this year. I've also written a collection of short stories called Short Stories from Around the World with Scholastic. But I'm here today to talk about my new chapter book series, Tiger Warrior, Attack of the Dragon King. So this is the first in a series of books which feature Jack and his grandfather and lots of magic and mayhem. So I am a children's author based in Glasgow, but as you can tell from my accent, I'm from Birmingham. So growing up in Birmingham, I didn't know that much about mythological creatures or know much about Chinese dragons, to be honest. And so doing this series has been amazing because I got to do lots of research about how many claws a dragon had and things like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my inspiration and what's in the book, and then I'll do a reading and maybe tell you one of my favourite mythological stories, which is about 4 dragons, and then I'll leave you with a writing activity at the end. So I like to write usually contemporary realism, which is stories about sort of normal people in Britain. But this book, Tiger Warrior, was such a fun book to write because I got to write about portals and magic and dragons, and there was lots of fighting and action in it, which is, really exciting to do. I think if you're a children's author, then you can write such amazing stories and use your imagination in ways that you didn't think possible. So this book is about Jack, who is a gamer. He lives in a terrace house with his mum, who's white, and his grandfather, who's Chinese, who's moved in and lives with them because Jack's father had died when he was 1 year old. So he loves his grandfather a lot and they're really close. And his grandfather jokes with him a lot. But one day, at the beginning of the book, Ye tells Jack that he is the Tiger Warrior. And he gives Jack a jade coin, and he tells him that the jade coin opens a portal to the Jade Kingdom. Now, obviously, if you're a normal boy at school who likes gaming, if your grandfather gave you a jade coin, you probably wouldn't believe that it was magic. And at first, Jack doesn't think that it's magic because why would you? But then it does open a portal and Jack goes in to the portal and finds himself in a world similar to ancient China, and it's full of mythical beasts that he's only heard of in his Ye stories. He can't believe it. A big part of the story is that Jack needs to work with the 12 animals of the Zodiac, which also are linked to the jade coin. And each book has one of the animals as the main sort of character that Jack needs to get to know really well and to learn how to use that character's power. And in this first book, it's the tiger. Especially because Jack is the Tiger Warrior, it's fitting that Jack has to learn how to use tiger power. Now, Tiger's power is fire. He can throw fireballs and he's very strong, and Jack needs to harness that power to overcome the enemy of the Jade Kingdom, which is the Dragon King. Now, often in Chinese mythology, dragons are the most beloved creatures. So why is this book a little different? Well, every now and then you'll get a dragon that is just disgruntled and wants to take over the Jade Kingdom. So power corrupts. So that's happening in this book, in this series. The Dragon King wants to overtake the Jade Kingdom and be the ruler. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about 4 dragons. And this is one of the stories that I used to tell when I was a storyteller. I used to dress up as the Chinese goddess Guan Yin, and I would go to libraries and schools and museums and tell stories dressed as this goddess. And this is one of my favourite stories. Once upon a time, many years ago in ancient China, 4 dragons flew over the ocean. They were the revered and most beloved creatures. Now, this was a time when there were no rivers, no lakes or ponds. There were only oceans. The 4 dragons were the black dragon, the yellow dragon, the pearl dragon, and the blue dragon. One day, the 4 dragons saw the villagers praying for help. "Please send the rain," said the villagers. "We're in a drought and we cannot grow food without the rain. It has been months and months since we had water. Our crops will die and we won't have any food." The 4 dragons were flying overhead and heard the pleas of the people. They felt really bad and they wanted to do something. So they got together and had a meeting. "Well, what can we do?" said the black dragon. "Well," said the pearl dragon, "we could go to the Jade Emperor and ask for his help." "Yes," said the yellow dragon, "let's do that." So the 4 dragons flew to the Jade Kingdom and knocked on the door of the Jade Emperor. Now, in this particular story, the Jade Emperor was really grumpy. He hated being woken up, and he especially hated being woken up by 4 dragons asking for his help. But he let them in. "What do you want? You've woken me up from my slumber," he said. "Please," said the pearl dragon, "the villagers need your help. It hasn't rained for such a long time and they can't grow their food. They're going to starve. We must do something," said the black dragon. All right, said the Jade Emperor. "Just go away and leave it with me. I'll handle it." So the 4 dragons left the Jade Kingdom and waited for the Jade Emperor to fulfill his promise and send the rain. But weeks went by and the villagers were still praying. The rain had not come. So the 4 dragons had another meeting. "The Emperor has not done as he has said he was going to do. What should we do? We need to do something ourselves," said the yellow dragon. "I've got a really good idea," said the blue dragon. "We're the dragons of the 4 oceans. So why don't we all take some water from the ocean and create rain?" So that's what they did. The 4 dragons swooped down low and took gulps of water into their mouths and then created clouds in the sky, releasing the water. They did this over and over and over again. And then suddenly, the clouds formed into big rain clouds and the rain began to fall. The villagers danced and whooped in glee as the rain fell onto their crops and filled their wells once more. "Thank you, dragons," said the villagers. "Thank you for saving our lives. How can we ever repay you?" Now, the dragons were quite modest and didn't need repayment. But the Jade Emperor found out that the dragons had done what he was supposed to do, and feeling bad about himself, he decided he was going to punish the dragons for not waiting for him to act. And so he called on the mountain god. "Come here," he said. "You shall imprison the 4 dragons under a mountain." The mountain god did as he was told, even though he didn't really want to. And the 4 dragons were imprisoned under 4 different mountains all over China. The people were sad. And then one day, one of the villagers noticed that a trickle of water was escaping from a mountain. It grew and grew and grew into the size of a river. Other villagers noticed the same happening at 3 other sites where the mountains held the dragon's prisoner. So, from each of the 4 mountains, 4 rivers flowed out, and the villagers named them after the 4 dragons. The Yangtze River, the Yellow River, the Pearl River, and the Blue River. The Yangtze River. And that's how the people of China remember the 4 dragons and how they had saved them. So I hope you enjoyed that story. And now I'm going to read from Tiger Warrior, Attack of the Dragon King. So now I'm going to read from Tiger Warrior Attack of the Dragon King. I'll read the prologue and then part of chapter 1. The huge lion beast stretched out its giant claws. Next to it, a nine-tailed fox pounced. The Dragon King put his hands behind his back and smiled as he walked past the paintings. There was probably a picture of him here somewhere. Once he had been the most powerful monster of them all. He hid his smile as he approached the throne and knelt before the Jade Emperor. "Thank you for letting me speak out to you, your celestial majesty," he said. "I have been imprisoned under the Mystic Mountain for 10 long years. I have had time to think, and I want to beg your forgiveness and to be your second in command again." The Jade Emperor smiled. "We were friends once, we can be again." "That's exactly what I want," said the Dragon King, allowing himself a small smile as he stood up. The Jade Emperor led him down a grand hallway lined with priceless vases and silk tapestries into his private chamber. He sat down at the table, which was laid for tea, and then bowed, indicating that the Dragon King could sit, but the Dragon King did not. Instead, he stood tall, clapping his hands together in a thunderous bang. A flash blinded the Jade Emperor, and his 2 guards shielded their eyes. The Dragon King transformed into his gigantic dragon form, roaring as power surged through his now snake-like scaly body. His tail unfurled, his claws extended. After all this time, the Dragon King had his power back. He swung his tail, knocking out both the guards in one swift move. The Jade Emperor rolled out of the way. With his opponent on the floor, the Dragon King swooped down to attack again. The Jade Emperor blasted a beam of light from his hands into the dragon's side. But although the light crackled and burned his flesh, the huge dragon only paused for a second. "Give up now. You know you can't beat me," the Emperor said. "Never," roared the Dragon King. There's a really cool picture here. He flung the Jade Emperor into the corner. "It's different this time. I have a power so great that I can finally defeat you." The Dragon King waved one eagle-like claw in a circle and a green staff appeared in the room. He pointed it at the Jade Emperor. "The Jade Staff," cried the Jade Emperor. "But how? How did you get it?" "Many dragons have died bringing this to me," the Dragon King snarled. "But it will be worth it to defeat you." He pointed the staff at the Jade Emperor again, and in an instant the Emperor was gone. The Dragon King looked out of the window at a huge snow-topped mountain and laughed, knowing that the Emperor was deep beneath it in a tiny cell. The Jade Emperor was now his prisoner. With a wave of his claw, he transformed back into his human body, holding the staff aloft. "The Jade Kingdom is finally mine," he proclaimed. So the next part is chapter 1, and this is where we meet Jack in the real world. "Take that," yelled Jack. He pressed the buttons on his controller, and the game's green dragon exploded in a splatter of dust. But just as Jack thought he had won, an orange dragon flew out of the castle and began to attack his avatar. "Oh, no, you don't." His avatar rolled away from the dragon's flames. Whew, that was close. Jack's bedroom door opened and his grandpa, who we called Yeah, came in. He stood by the door watching Jack playing his game. "Hi, Yeah," Jack said, not taking his eyes from the screen. "That's not how to defeat a dragon," Yeah said. "Oh yeah?" Jack laughed, twisting around in his gaming seat to look at Yeah, whose eyes were shining mischievously. "Do it like this." Yeah sprang up, kicking hard, his slipper flying into the air and almost knocking Jack's lamp over. Jack's jaw dropped, and then turned just like this, uppercut. Yeah yelled as he punched into the air with surprising ferocity. Jack grinned and swiveled back round to his screen. He pushed the buttons, trying to copy Ya's moves. His avatar leapt, punching the red dragon into oblivion. "No way, it worked!" Jack turned to see. Yeah bent over, coughing as he made his way to Jack's chair. "Yes, I told you," Yeah said, taking breaths in between coughs. Jack got up and went to his grandpa, whose face was going beetroot red. "Shall I get some water?" Jack asked. "No, don't worry about me. Just got something in my throat," Yeah, choked out. I'm fine. Yeah, didn't look fine. I think you should rest, Jack said. You're always saying you're not a spring chicken anymore. This old chicken could outrun you any day, Yeah joked, stifling more coughed. But I think it's time, Jack. Time for what? Jack asked, helping his grandpa sit down. To pass on something to you which was Julong's. Dad's, Jack said in surprise. Yeah nodded. Which was your father's before he died. Jack sat down next to his granddad. Yeah, is everything okay? His grandpa was acting really strange. Jack, are you brave enough to face a real dragon? Yeah asked, looking deadly serious. There's no such thing, Yeah. I think you need to rest, Jack laughed. I'm serious. I'm not going to be around forever. It's time. Yeah grabbed hold of his arm. Come to my room. I've got something special I need to give you before it's too late. Okay, you're scaring me now. Why was his granddad acting so weird? Jack always felt a little knot in his belly when Yeah mentioned his dad. He died when Jack was 1. Not long afterwards, Yeah had decided to move from China and come to live with Jack and his mum. Jack shook his head as he followed Yeah to his room across the landing. Come, you'll see. Excitedly now, Yeah shuffled into his bedroom. Jack loved Yaya's room. It smelled tangy from his ointment and the walls were covered in long scrolls with brush art pictures of dragons, as well as funny cartoons Yaya had cut out from newspapers. Yaya noticed Jack looking around. Your father would have been happy that you were going to have it. Yaya pulled out a wooden box and opened it slowly. He held something in the palm of his hands, which he extended to Jack. This is for you. Thanks, I guess, said Jack, taking the pale, shiny green disc and turning it over. Yaya reached out and cuffed Jack's ear. Ow, Jack yelled. What's that for? Thanks, I guess. That was for your cheeky monkey talk. This is a jade coin, the most precious object in the universe. Yaya looked different now, his face radiant as he gazed at the green thing in Jack's hand. Look closely, what can you see? Well, Jack said. He stared hard at the coin. He recognised the 12 creatures of the Zodiac. Yaya had drilled him into the stories of the animals and how they came to be in the Chinese Zodiac, and every bedtime he would tell Jack a different myth. Okay, so yeah, I see. The rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, pig, dog. See, I was listening. Good, Yaya chuckled. I was going to wait until you're older, but you're right. I'm no spring chicken, more like an old goose. I taught you about the ancient myths for a reason. To bore me to death, Jack said, ducking before Yaya could cuff him again. Listen, Jack, I have something to tell you. Yaya held his grandson's shoulders and stared into his eyes. You are the Tiger Warrior. You must take your place and battle the forces of evil in the Jade Kingdom. Bum bum. So that's Jack finding out that he is the Tiger Warrior. So how would you feel if you found out that you were the protector of a magical kingdom? I mean, it would be kind of mind-blowing. So now I've got a writing exercise that you can do. If you can think of one of the Chinese Zodiac animals, imagine that animal coming to your bedroom or your backyard and write down the interaction between the two of you. What would you say to that animal? What would they say to you? Because they can all talk. And in my book, all of the Chinese animals have their own power, but you can come up with your own superhero power for your Chinese Zodiac animal. So have fun writing your Chinese Zodiac story, and remember that you can use your imagination however you wish. So I hope you read The Tiger Warrior, either get it from your library or your local bookstore. And thank you for listening, and thank you Moon Lane TV. Bye.